So for today's free online lesson topic, so I would like to share with you about the nesting inside of Autodesk Fusion. All right. So first of all, what is nesting? So nesting is something like if you want to rearrange a pattern. Now, one example here, if you take a look here, I have a picture here, a model of I believe this is a computer casing, and it is made of multiple nesting parts. Multiple of sheet metal parts. And these sheet metal parts, we would like to nest it. What I mean by nest is where we want to rearrange on one flat raw materials or packaging in where we can use it to cut. Right, so that is basically nest. Right, so the reason why is because when you have a sheet metal or flat patterns that you want to cut, you want to save up the amount of space or the amount of material. So you like to rearrange that. So you can do it manually. For example, if you see right over here, so we have a example of sheet metal that has been arranged. So it can be done manually, but it will take a long time. So this is where nesting tools come in, where it automatically rearrange the part for you. All right. So this is basically our agenda for today. So first of all, we're going to take a look on our sheet metal assembly or parts, and we're going to do some nest preparations before we moving to the nest study. And once the preparation has been done, we can now send it to nest environment, and we can also add some more parts that are not included inside of that particular model. And we can create a studies, and we can also take a look on some of the nest settings that we can done, right? And of course, we would like to also export the data, right? Whether you want to export SSD itself to be open inside of AutoCAD or to send to the CNC machines, or we also can take a look on the report itself. Right? We can also send directly to the CAM machining tools directly inside of Fusions, and we can take a look on the data or the report before, and we can do a data comparison between the nest study that we can create. All right, so let me show you the example here. Let me just close this one. Right, so I believe you can still see my screen. So what I have here an example of sheet metal parts. So I have a multiple component here. Component 1, component 2, 3. Okay, and over here I have 2 of these. It's basically the same things, same component right over here. So in total I have 4 different parts. Right, so 4 different sheet metal component. Right, before we send it to the sheet to the nesting environment, first of all, the nesting inside of Fusion 360, it comes with the manufacturing extension. So if you just get the Fusion itself, you will not be able to see or use the nesting software. So you need to have a manufacturing extension, which is this one, right? The nesting is part of the manufacturing extension. Okay, so to do that, we can go to the manufacturings, right? Since it is under the manufacturing extensions. But before that, we would like to do a preparation first. So you can go to the utilities, and from here, you can take a look at the nest preparations. So if I click over here, so this is where you can prepare your parts. Right. So one example here is that if there are other items other than sheet metals and I don't want to send it to the nesting software, so I can use this to filter. Right, so this is where you can filter out what are the item that you want. So most likely it is automatic. Okay, so for example, if I have a sketch or some things that I want to remove or to ignore, so I can just tick and it will automatically ignore. And maybe I want to also ignore other than sheet metals. So what I can do is that I can just select the parts of the components. I can drop down and select ignore. For this case, I have all of these are sheet metals, all except for this one. Okay, because this one is actually just assembly, right? So it will not be bring into the nesting environment, right? Because it's a total parts. But if you have other than sheet metals, so you can select ignore. But for my case here, all of these are sheet metals. So I can just leave it the settings to defaults. But before we proceed, other things that we need to do is that we need to make sure that our sheet metal has a flat pattern. So flat pattern is example. If I take a look on the sheet metals environment over here, we have a create flat pattern here. So basically I can just click over here and I can click open and it will reopen the flat pattern. So if you take a look here, this is the final shape which they can be used to bend, and we have this shape. So to send it to nest, usually we would like to flatten all of the parts. So to know if your part already have a flat flat patterns, so you should be able to check from here. So we have a flat pattern here. So we have right over here, here and here. Right? For example, if maybe for this component here, okay, maybe I use this component, same thing. Let's say this component right over here. I don't have flat pattern yet, right? So if you want to add it, just use the create flat pattern and just select any face that you want, and it will reopen the band area right, that you can see it from here. So this is what we also would like to bring into the nestings. So now our project is ready. So I can move to the manufacture. And from here, before we create nest, so other things that we can add or adjust the settings. So first of all, we have a source. So if I would like to add more component, right? One example here, maybe I have a bracket here that I would like to bring. Okay. So I can add more component that's not in the assembly list right from here. Right. So to add it, you can just click add the source. Right. So for my case here will be bracket, and you can select and it will should add right over here. And here is where you can take a look on your parts. Right. So you can filter up and see the information regarding this part here. If I take a look here, I have the arrow to see different view. Okay, so I see the flat pattern. Okay, this one does not have flat pattern yet because I did not create. So if I just proceed to nest, it will not create the band, right? But for now, I just proceed first. But before that, you can see we also have some settings that you can select. And now, for example, here, my flat patterns for other parts, I can take a look at the information from here. So, for example, this component still here is still 2.5 millimeter thickness. So we have 1.5 thickness, we have 2.5, and for this case, we have somewhere around 30 something millimeter. So not very accurate. So you can use this to select that, right? So you can override it. So if you take a look here, so we have a button that allow you to select. So you can see is this grayed out, okay, except for this one. But for this case, it is grayed out. If you want to able to change, you can select this tree, then you can select and you can override for the rest. But since this one is not accurate, so what I can do, I can just untick and maybe I can put it right from, okay, we can also see the list from here. Maybe I also would like to put it under 2 millimeter category. So I can select steel 2 millimeter. Now, if you see here, we have a long list of uh, raw materials and also the thickness here. So if you want to change it, you can change from the process material library, right? But before we go to this setting here, so we can try to test for our first nest first. So if I click create nest study, so you will be able to see some of the settings, some more settings that you can adjust from here. Okay, if you want to take a look all of your component, you can select here. If you want to take a look at the packagings, so this is where we can take a look later on. But for now, by default, all of the material that we have over here is somewhere around 1000 to 500. So we can change it later on. Right? So we have a global parameter. Now, when we send it to nesting tadi, the nesting tadi, we do mathematic calculations to rearrange the patterns. And this is where you can readjust the computing calculation here. So if you want it to make quicker in computing, so you can just adjust from here. So for this case, it is minimized for length. Maybe I want to minimize for both length and also width. So you can take a look at the preview from here. In my case, I would like to minimize both. And lastly, it is an output. It will create a manufacturing model. So if you don't want to see it, you can untick. For my case here, it's better to leave it on. And now at the front here, it is a job quantity. So if you have different assembly or sub-assembly, you can select the multiple value here. So we have the first one, which is we have somewhere around 4 parts inside here. Oh, no, sorry. This one, we have 4 parts inside here. And this is the new one that we have recently added, right? The one with the bracket that's not yet completed. So if you want to change the quantity for each of these multiple value, you can do it from here. But for my case here, I just leave it single so that both of the lists will be multiplied. So what I want to do is that I would like to not just only have one, maybe I would like to have 2 or 3 or more copies. For this case, maybe I just limit to 2 first. Stack size is where if you have multiple and you don't want it to duplicate. Now, for example, here, if you take a look, now I'm not sure if you're able to see, but let me just close this one first. If I take a look here, one of the parts, let me just change back to design. I think you should be able to see the flat pattern right from here. This component and this component here is the two same part, right? It's just a copy. So maybe when I send it to the nesting, I don't want to make it this as a 2. So this is where you can filter up just to show only one of this only, right? So for my case here, I just leave it as duplicate, leave it as 1. As for the overall quantity, I want to make it 2. So when I create OK, so it will create the nest study for you. Now, since we don't select the raw materials packaging, so we don't see the size from there. Okay, so this is the settings for the second ones. So you can see we have a problem over here. Usually you would like to open to make it flat. And we have the one for this. So basically we have 2 different sheets from here, 2 different shapes from here, and also here. So since this one does not have a flat pattern, so what I can do is that I can make sure to add a flat pattern first for this. Okay, I can go back to the sheet metals, and I can create a flat patterns. Okay, now it should have a flat pattern inside. So when I save, and I would like to make some editings and update, you can see that if you make some change, so this icon will appear, indicate that there are updates that need to be made. Right, so to update it, you can just quickly right click and you can generate a new one. But before that, I would like to adjust some settings because I would like to show the stock as well. And now I can regenerate back. Let me just generate back again. Let me see. If the generation cannot be done, what you can do is that you can reapply. So I believe it may take some time. So maybe this one, we already have the flat pattern. Let me just close this. If still cannot, then you can just close and repeat back. But let me see from here, still not update. Okay, let me just remove this. So just for quick one, I'm just going to delete and redo back the change. So I believe the change has been made a bit slow from here. So let me just try again. Right. So I believe that a bit slow. But usually once has been done, you should be able to see this will be a flat one. Okay. Yeah, I believe I also need to update from the source. So let me just remove this. Yeah, this one still not yet become flat. So let me just remove and we add back the bracket. Let me just from here. No, yeah. Now we have the flat pattern. So if I click OK, and I can regenerate back. Okay, so now we have the first one. Okay, so this is the raw material, so it's much easier to see. And then we have the second one. Okay, so this one have a lot of space, so we can adjust the settings later on. And we have the third one. Now, a few things that we can add or readjust is the one is the distance between the edge and the parts. And second one is we have the distance between one part to another parts that we can adjust. And we can also readjust the stock size from here. Now, let me show you. So you can go to the process material library. So this is where you can edit your packaging. So we have some of those that not actually used inside. So basically we only have 3 packaging. Right? So only these 3. So some of those like 60 here, I can just remove. Let me just remove first. Okay, so you can remove. So let me show you. Okay, you can delete this, except for the one that has been used, that your component has. So if I try to delete this, you can see you cannot delete because this component is currently used, right? So if you want to create a new one, so for example, I add the one part before and I apply with 2, but let's say maybe I want to have different materials. So what you can do is that you can add and you can basically change the material from here. Maybe I want this to be 3 millimeter, for example. Maybe I want to have different material from here, right? Okay, so that is a few things that you can edit. Okay, I forgot to click OK. Let me just clear up a bit from here. Okay, so basically we just have these 3. So now let's take a look at the settings. So you can go to the packaging over here. This is the packaging size. Now, all of this is 1,000 to 500. So I believe this one have no issue. So also same with this one, but maybe I would like to make some updates, maybe make it a bit bigger for this and this one as well, but maybe I make it this slightly smaller. For this case is a bit too long, 1,000. Maybe I will like to reduce it to 200 only. Okay, so this will be updated later on for my packaging. Okay, again, you can also add a new packaging from here. Other than that, you can select your packaging settings from here. Now, for example, if I were to add some more right packaging, and it will add right over here. So you can see the packaging you can set up from here. But for now, I can take a look at each of my packaging. The first one is the seal. Okay, so thickness 2.5, metals, and so on. Now, if I take a look at my packaging, so this will be the size, and I have changed before to 700. And we have the nesting. So this is where the setting for your part here, right? The distance between this part. And you see here, the rotation is 90 degree. Maybe I would like to make it 45 degree, 30 degree. So this is the settings that you can done from here. So under the nesting settings, right? Maybe I don't want to rotate 180 to 70. So I can just take. If you want to increase or decrease the distance, so we have the frame width and also item separations. So frame width is basically just the edge to our pattern here. So maybe I want to make it a bit more, maybe around 20 for each. 20. right? And let's say the second one, I will also like to add some more distance between each part. So from one part to this parts, right? Maybe I'm afraid that my cutting tools is not big enough for this gap. So I can just readjust from here. But I believe 5 millimeters should be good enough. But for the legitimacy for this film horizon, so I'm just gonna increase a bit, maybe make it around 8. So there will be 8 millimeter distance between two parts. And this one is basically just a rotational. If you want this to make it rotate for 45 degrees, 60 degree, 30 degrees, so you can adjust from here. But for my case, I just leave it 0. So now that I have done, so I can just click OK. If I want to, I can create new studies, or if I want to, I can also regenerate. So if I want to create new study, I can just create new study from here. Maybe I want more than just 2. So currently we have 2. Maybe I want to have more of this. Let's say 4 for each. I click OK, and it will create a new study from here. Now, if you take a look here, we have one part here. We have 4 copy of this each. So second one, we have a bit more, and our sheet metal raw material is slightly smaller. Now, if I were to increase a bit some more, maybe I would like to edit nesting tadi. Okay, should be it will not be enough. But what it will done is that it will create a new uh, sheet material, right? So second one, okay, it will try to create a new uh, raw material from here, since one is not enough. Same goes with this one. One is also is not enough, so we have the second one, right? Okay, so let's say if I were to have like this, for example, maybe I would like to fill in a bit some more on this empty area here with this small part here. So you can also edit from the nesting that we have from here. Now, if I right click here, you can generate. If you make some change, so if you want to edit a nesting study, you can edit from here. Okay, but if you want to edit for each of these individual raw materials, so you can right click at the nest, right? The nest output that we have from here, right? So maybe I would like to edit this nest. Let me see. Edit nest. Okay. So from here, the shape. Okay. So previously, the small one, I only have one copy originally, and we set quantity to 4. So that will be, oh no, we set quantity to 6 before, and then we only have 6 of this. Maybe I'd like to increase this a bit some more. Let's say somewhere around 12 copy as well. So when I click OK, now if I were to see, okay, I believe, let me just check back. Should we will create some more. Yep. So it will create a bit more over here. Okay. So we create a bit more of this part from here. All right. Let's say I done some few more studies, and next things, what I would like to do, I would like to send it to machining, or maybe I would like to generate reports, or maybe I would like to export it to DXF. So to export to DXF, so what you can do is that you can right click at the nest here, right? So you can select export. Let me see where it is the export. Should be right over here. Oh yeah, this one. Okay, for each of this plate here. So maybe I would like to export. I think this is not. Okay, maybe I just reduce back to. No, okay. Yeah, I think this one looks good. Okay, so let's say I would like to export this one. So I can right click and I can select export. And we have an export to DXF here. So it will export to your PC. And if you want to, you can take a look at the preview first for this. Let me just click preview. So we have a preview for you to export. Right? Okay. So this is the DXF that we will look like. So I click OK, it will export. Now, if I want to take a look at the report, so what you can do is that you can right click at the nesting tadi. We should have the report from here. No, I believe under the nest. Yep, should be under the nest. And I can select report. Okay, so from here, there will be the list information that you have for the components, for your the raw material here. Okay, so you can see we have the source part, including with the length, with the area that has been used. Okay, and you also calculate the efficiency, how much the area that you have saved. So that kind of information can be seen from here. Now, if you would like to export, you can just click save, and you can either export as a PDF or you can also export as a HTML, right? So maybe I export as a PDF, and let me just close. Okay, I believe it do some loading. Okay. At the meantime, I can open one example for my download here. So I have the DXF file created from here. Okay, I believe this is the I believe this is the latest one. Okay, so you can open from the AutoCAD if you want to, or you can have a DXF viewer. So we have this right from here. Okay, I believe my Fusion accidentally closed, probably because I run too quick. Let me just reopen back. Okay, so yeah. So this is the DXF that I have before, right? So this is the AutoCAD that you can see from. Okay, let me just reopen back. Let me just manufacturing, right? Should be under manufacturing. Okay, and if I would like to send it to manufacture, okay, before I send to manufacture, so let me just create the nest again. So I have this nesting created. Okay, maybe I have a second one that have a few duplicate. Okay, so you can create multiple study, right? And then you can compare. So if you want to compare it, you have the nesting information from here. Okay, so if you don't want to take a look at the report right now, right? If you want to quickly see the information, so we have the nesting informations. Okay, I'm not sure if you see it from here, right? So if I were to click this nest, this sheet here, we have the plus button here that you can see the information about this sheet. Okay, about this one. If I click nest, so we have the information about this nest. So this is have a 6 of the part over here, and the efficiency is around 64 point something. Okay, for this. Okay, if you want to include cost, you can also include a cost. If I go back to the process material library, you can add a cost from here. Let me just select. Yeah, you can add a cost, right? So allow you to calculate and manage the value easily. Yeah? Okay, and if I have two different study and I want to compare, so this is where you can just select and hold control. You can select multiple study, and you should create and do a comparison between these two, right? Okay, so to send it to manufacturing, let me just close this one first. Okay, so maybe I just use the simple one, which is this one. So you can right click and you can select create setup from manufacturing model. So when I create setup from manufacturing model, and this is our raw materials before, right? So I did not rechange to make it smaller. So we have this, but just for example, I'm just going to proceed. Let's say I would like to use laser cutting or water jet. So I can just proceed from here, click OK. And I can add some cutting process for this part. Oh, let me just click from here. Maybe I use laser cutting. And I can simulate the cutting process for me. So when I hit play, then you will see that multiple process can be done within a short amount of time. Right? So you can create less quickly. You can also generate the flat patterns and export into the DXL. You can also see the reports, and it will calculate the efficiency of your raw material place, and you can also send it to the CAM software quickly. Right, so that is the nesting software within the Fusion 360.